agent gets direct access to that data. This is your system, right? You don't have to wait for some third party to send you the information you need to take to the carrier to show premium dollars, right? You can log right in the system and pull the report out that you need to take to the carrier on behalf of the client when you go for a renewal or a reprice, right? And to your earlier point, I like to think of this as the example I like to use is like my local provider here for cable and internet, Xfinity or Comcast as they used to be called, right?
Welcome to Insurance Shoptalk. This is the podcast where the world of commercial insurance gets a little closer to home. I'm your host, Eric Stein, and in every episode, we're taking a deep dive into the insurance industry. From the latest news and trends to in-depth interviews with InsurTech experts, carriers, and agency newsmakers, we're covering it all. So sit back, tune in, and let's start the conversation. All right, everybody. Today, I'm excited to have Jamie Fortier with us with isolved. Jamie, how are you?
Doing well, Eric. How are you?
Excellent. Jamie and I have known each other quite a while, for being in the industry and insurance and payroll, HR, the whole nine yards. And when I saw Jamie at a conference recently, he let me know they've got a new system now that would allow agents to be able to not only they can either refer payroll services or actually put payroll services in their agency to offer to customers without any work or liability. And so when I heard that, I knew that would be huge, for our crowd that, listens to the podcast. So, Jamie, why don't you introduce yourself, the company, and kind of give a little bit about your background?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Eric. Appreciate it. It's good to be part of the shop talk, man. So yeah, I'm excited to speak to the audience. Obviously, share more with you on the conversation that we had together a couple weeks ago. So, as Eric mentioned, we've been familiar with one another for probably about a decade or so at this point, Eric, right? So, my background, I come originally from the financial services world. Those were my first jobs in the world. Was as an equity trader for Franklin Templeton, one of the large mutual fund companies. I've been fortunate enough to find my new calling, which is working in the HCM or human capital technology space. And I spent the last dozen or so years working with primarily resellers in this HCM technology ecosystem. So payroll service bureaus, ASOs, PEOs, right? Folks that are, and more likely or more recently, right, been working a lot with CPAs in this audience here, right? Insurance brokers that are looking to get into the payroll business in one way or another. So today, I sit as a director within a business unit here within isolved called the isolved Network. And the isolved Network is an ecosystem of about 250 or so of these service bureaus, right? These HCM payroll technology providers across the entire country, right?
And
They serve
HCM being human capital
human
management.
capital management. Yeah, sorry. It's terminology I use every day, but I realize maybe this audience doesn't know what that is, right? But
Yeah,
collectively
yeah,
within
we
the
say
isolved
we
Network, we've
talk
got
about
250
MCO,
partners.
TP. Yeah, we go TPA, MCO,
Right. I
we
mean, there's
call them.
acronyms for just about everything, right?
Right, right.
So yeah, so again, the iSolve network is really this kind of cohort of about 250, 260 or so of these payroll service providers of varying degrees of sophistications. And collectively, they serve almost 100,000 clients, right? And the typical client is an SMB, a small mid-sized business, right? A 20, 50, 100-man company, somewhere in that kind of ballpark. And collectively, amongst these partners, they pay over 2 million worksite employees every month. So it's a nice little business unit for us within the iSolve ecosystem. More importantly, for these owner operators of these bureaus, right? Eric, you know this from your prior experience, having kind of been down this before with insurance solutions as well, right? This is a great business line for them as an extension to some of their core practices. And again, within the ecosystem, we've got CPAs, the typical insurance brokers. We've got people that have these as additive business units to what is considered kind of a core business, right? So the cool part is we can kind of give them access to a technology platform and in some cases a service back office kind of turnkey, right? Which really allows for them to kind of slap their brand on it, right? Let somebody else do the work for them in the back office, meaning my team, right? And really get out there and really start to penetrate further into their client relationships that they have in that core business, be it insurance or advisory services around CPA, et cetera.
No, that makes sense. So it could turn into like I'm seeing like a few different scenarios, like we talked about in the beginning, like a lot of agents at this point, like even let's say when I strike out with an agent helping them on workers' comp with like a standard market and I can't place it there or they can't place it with theirs, we look to like maybe the PEO model or a model that includes payroll. that's again usually the last stop on the train because the agent doesn't want to have to spend the time, getting all the payrolls handled, set up for the customer in terms of just even, letting us do it all. And then secondly, the time is always short because of timing. Client gets stressed because they don't want to change their current system and such. But what I was thinking about after talking to you with, and I've seen agencies do this very successfully, like they usually use like an ADP or something, but I like how you're set up to make it more white label. So now they can add this this payroll system right inside their office, and have their logo on it. You'll white label everything. So talk through a little bit about,
Yeah.
how you'd propose an agent in probably the agency principal and maybe a producer who would refer you to their principal, a producer refer you to their principal. How would you recommend the easiest way to get started and then the easiest way to test the water, maybe like you said, referral or and then in the setup process, how it
Yeah,
would
yeah,
work?
awesome. No, good. Valid concerns, right? Is hey, this is not an area that this person typically spends a lot of time in, right? And if they have been there before, it's usually, to your point, been a fire drill of trying to solicit information from that mutual client and be the middleman in sending that over to the payroll partner on that end of the system, right? So in our world, there's really kind of like two main ways that we work with P&C agents, brokers, or either as individuals or on an agency basis, right? One is through, we consider kind of that typical referral type relationship, probably very similar to the relationships that many of the folks watching this podcast already have today, where, hey, they've run into a client, they want to take that insurance piece of business, right? But they need to find a home for the payroll piece, right? So typically what they'll do is they'll reach out to an ADP or a Paychex or Paycom philosophy and set up like a referral based relationship, right? And that's kind of the path of least resistance, right? And it's also the path that gives you the smallest piece of the pie, right? Typically, you'll get a referral fee. It's somewhere 10 or 15% of whatever the annualized revenue is off of that for with a tail associated with it, right? 2, 3 years of an earnout, so to speak, assuming the client stays put with that payroll service provider in that particular case, right? That's the path of least resistance. That's the easy way to do it, right? Find a trusted partner that you can refer this stuff to that's going to treat your client the way that you would want them to, and you get them to stick there so you can continue to earn out on that side, right? The client's happy, you're happy, so is the payroll company, right? The second model is the one that we talked about when we were together, which is more of the, hey, let me hang up my own shingle, right? Let me get a branded instance that I can go out there and sell it under my name, right? Joe's Payroll as an example, right? I can give my client the technology that they need. I can give them the services they need without me having to build out a back office and take on all the overhead on hiring a whole team of people and learning a system, right? And going through the heavy lift, right? In this world, it works very similar to that referral relationship in that iSolve would run the back office for you, but we're doing it in your system, right? And this becomes a portable book of business. This becomes an asset that you now own and control, which is the beautiful part of this model, right? The other part is you're harvesting margins that are typically 50, 60, 70% of that for yourself because it's yours, right? Even though we're doing the labor, your client doesn't necessarily know that, right? They're paying a retail rate as if they would pay a payroll service bureau, as if they would pay us directly, let's call it, in that referral relationship. You're keeping more of that, right? You're just farming off the labor side of it, which makes it a beautiful model, right? And the second part is you're building a new asset, right? An additional revenue source for your business, first and foremost, right? It's more hooks that are getting into your client that makes it harder for that client to go leave and go to the agency down the street or to go to an ADP as an example who sells payroll and benefits and everything else. And not to shit all over ADP, but Paychex does it, right? There's the usual suspects. All these big payroll bureaus, these national payroll bureaus got into the insurance business a long time ago, right? A lot
Yeah,
of
I
them
think
did it under the
ADP is
guise
now
of
like one of the
PEO.
largest insurance brokers in the world, like under Marsh and maybe
Right.
bigger.
Again, these payroll companies saw these folks, right? These brokers, these agents that were out there that owned SMB client relationships, right? They said, hey, what's an easy way to tap into there is, hey, let's give them a piece of the action for sending a referral over to us, right? And this was pre 1990s, early 2000s when ADP and Paychex were operating as strictly a payroll service bureau. It wasn't until the late 90s, early 2000s, in ADP's example, with the acquisition of VinCam, which was a PEO, that's now ADP Total Source, right? Now they got into the insurance business through this PEO division, right? So they're trying to slowly walk these clients that they originally had brought in as payroll only clients that came in through these broker agents and backdoor calling in. They're offering retirement, group benefits, right? Ancillary insurance related products, anything and everything to slowly but surely walk that payroll client into that full blown PEO offering where they make the most money, right? They make the most money in that PEO offering on their administrative fees, plus the arbitrage of managing these large group benefit offerings too.
Right, right. So then as far as the setup, they get a contract with you. Talk about how, because you guys handle everything, data entry, payroll
Yep.
processing, delivery, everything. Like they don't need to hire staff, right?
Correct. Yeah. So this is going to be a very similar conversation, I think, to the episode you had a few months back with Paul at Payroll Mart and kind of the offering that Paul put together. We've got something very similar to what Paul's doing. Paul's doing it platform agnostic, right? Paul's going to go and find whichever platform, be it ADP, Paychex, Paycom, Paylocity, whatever that fits that particular client need, right? And would be the back office here. In the iSolve world, again, it's a single platform, right? So all your clients will be collectively brought together within our ecosystem. We will handle all the client onboarding. So the broker agent's role in this particular, we call it service bureau outsourcing or back office outsourcing, right? Is truly to kind of be the point of contact on the inbound to set the price points, right? What are the price points of the particular bundle of products or solutions that they want, right? With their markup included into that. And then helping us to collect the necessary onboarding paperwork, contracts, so to speak, right? And that's the extent of that. After that, our team rolls in there and has direct communication with the SMB, with the client, saying, hey, we need your census information. We need your historical payroll data. We'll go and chase down all that information to pull it into the system and, in theory, set up the client, right? And get them ready to process that first payroll. When the first payroll comes along, right? We'll process that payroll. We'll debit the client for the fee that you told us that the agent decided to set for that. We'll take in those fees, right? Payroll transactional fees, tax liabilities, insurance premiums, right? The whole gamut of everything that's collected during a particular payroll run, right? We'll take all that money in, we'll pay that out to where it needs to go, including you on your share, right? Your rev share, your markup on that particular stuff, right? Premiums get paid to the carriers, right? Payments get made to the state disbursement agency for child support for an employee, right? Perfect example of some transactional payroll stuff that scares brokers and agents away because they don't know some of these things, right? To go and do these things. Like, what do I do? Do I need to get licensed to go and do this? Like, no, it's turnkey with this SBO or this Service Bureau outsourcing in our world. We do all the heavy lifting. All you gotta do is throw it over the wall to us, right? We'll set it up for you to bring those clients on and we'll serve the client. And you can, at that point, as the broker or agent on that, you can focus on the relationship side of it, right? Continuing to make sure the customer is happy, right? Continuing to look for ways to upsell and cross-sell that client the other products in our portfolio, right? Applicant tracking, performance management, all these extensions beyond payroll that can create additional revenue for you on a rev share. And guess what? We'll go set all those things up for you too, right? So ideally, it gives you more quivers, more arrows in your quiver, so to speak, to go out there when you're engaging with a particular prospect or client to offer something more than just those insurance products, right? Because again, if you're going to look to displace somebody that's, let's use that as an example, somebody that's in a PEO relationship, right? You can slide in there and say, hey, I can get you a standalone group benefits plan, or I can get you a pay-go work comp plan. Great, I can get those two things that you're getting from that PEO today. Okay, cool, but that client still needs somebody to do payroll and HR stuff, right? They're going to go get it. They might as well get it from you, and you might as well take a piece of it for facilitating that rather than letting them go out to market and shop the payroll piece independently to somebody that might come back and backdoor you on the things that you sold them, those insurance related products.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, especially they take pulling them out of a PEO. They need that payroll piece to handle. And then the other thing you said, so you will actually, if the agent ends up selling pay-as-you-go work comp, you can then deduct the premium by workers' comp class, by payroll, and then transmit that payment to the actual carrier.
Yep. Comp benefits. I mean, we are insurance product agnostic, right? We like to say BYOI, bring your own insurance, right? We don't care where the policy is, if it's a client policy, if it's a group policy, hell, if it's a PEO's policy. I mean, again, we have PEOs that operate on platform that have those master policies as well, right? The system is agnostic to that. You set up the plan, you set up the ownership structure, you set up the rates of the plan. When we go and calculate the payrolls, right? We're going to pull down the employer's portion of the premium and the employee's portion of a premium and collect all those monies and make sure they get paid appropriately to the carrier, whatever the product might be, right? Group benefits, work comp, mean, hell, we even do the deductions for like 401k contributions and make those payments to the 401k TPAs that are in place with those particular clients on your behalf too.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, that's excellent. Hey, everybody, it's Eric. I just want to pop in for a quick announcement. Exciting news. I just launched my new book on Amazon. It's called The Blueprint: An Insurance Agency's Unconventional Rise to the Top. And it goes through a little bit about how I built the agency Insured Solutions since 2009 to today. And the blueprint in terms of how I actually did it with the tech stack, the offshore, nearshore talent, and digital marketing techniques that I use. So pick up a copy today on Amazon. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so let's talk about like I know this is kind of varies, but let's say the cost of your services as well, and then the potential revenue just on the payroll that they could possibly make, just total guesstimate,
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so I can't get too particular on costs here, right? We have some NDAs in place with existing partners, but I can give you some ballpark numbers to work with, right? So again, traditionally on a referral basis, where somebody's just kind of introducing us into a client, and we're kind of taking the whole sales obligation and running them through the ringer, proposing pricing, onboarding, taking them on as our own. Again, 10 or 15% is the typical kind of rev share back on something like that. In an ASO or a payroll only type of offering, I mean, the MSRP is somewhere around 20 to 25 bucks per employee per month for ASO, right? Really basic kind of payroll. It can get more expensive than that as you start bolting on additional modules like applicant tracking, which is like the recruitment tool, right? Or expense management or time and labor, right? All these other things that are kind of around that hub of payroll being in the middle to that, right? Those ancillary products in our ecosystem are all incremental profit centers, let's call it incremental annuities, if you want to call it that way, for partners that could drive that cost up on a per employee basis to 30, 40, 50 bucks, right? Of course, there's scale in that. If it's a 10-man client versus a 200-man client, right? You're going to adjust your pricing accordingly to make sure that it's going to fit and be competitive to what somebody else is out there offering, right? So on that referral basis, you're getting 10, 15% of that, right? In that network partner ecosystem, you're keeping the lion's share of that revenue, right? You're buying this technology from us at a wholesale rate, right? You're buying that from us for, let's say, 10 or 15 bucks, just for the sake of talking round numbers. And again, you're out there getting 25, 30, 40, 50
And
bucks, right?
this is
That's
a
where you're seeing
fee.
that 60,
This is a
70% margin.
And
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt you. This is a fee of like per month per employee is how it's
correct.
billed, right?
Correct. Per
Okay.
employee per month, right? In that network ecosystem, if you go the traditional network partner, like that future state of where you're running the back office yourself, I mean, there's abilities in the system to go and hit them up with, I like to call ding fees. Like, hey, a $50 charge for every new hire that we're putting into the system on your behalf, or a $50 termination fee, or marking up certain items, right? That's the one good part about the flexibility within that network ecosystem on the back where you're not leasing our back office is you can really find easy ways to incrementally kind of ding a client for fees here and there. And the best part is you can kind of hide it a little bit in the way that the invoices can be formatted as well. Like you could bucket something under administrative fee, right? And it shows on the invoice as administrative fee, but that might be made up of 8 or 10 different items that you're marking up. You're marking up rates on a particular item, or you know, again, our PEOs do this pretty commonly, right? State unemployment, right? They're marking up state unemployment. They're hiding that in the invoice because there's the bill rate versus the actual rate or the charge rate, right? And some of them are doing that with other products as well. So they're making these incremental fees. The beautiful part is they're hiding it under a bucket or a label on the invoice that just says admin fees. So the client never sees kind of all these little ding fees along the way. We have other clients that are a lot more transparent with their clients. They give the unbundled type billing where they show these things, and they approach their clients saying, look, this is not a not-for-profit business, right? I'm in this business for a profit. I'm entitled to make a markup on some of these administrative services that I'm doing for you a la carte, as you might want to call it, right? So
Yeah,
there's
and
a
the
couple different ways to skin the cat on it.
payroll firms out there like with ADP and Paycheck, they're doing all these different fees. It is disclosed in the agreement, but you're right. There's a fee for every little thing. And this
There is.
report fee, this fee for W-2s, this fee for this.
Yeah.
This is very common in the business. So you can either bundle it, like you said, or you can actually have it just full, just itemized, but you always put it in the agreement. So like you said, it's transparent, but you're right. It's just an extra revenue generation. So like give an idea, let's say if you had I don't know, you tell me, 500 employees, 1,000 employees, the revenue opportunity, or I don't know how you would do it per employee
I
revenue
mean,
would
if
be,
you did like, if let's just use round numbers for the sake of this example. Let's just say you're out there at the MSRP of $25 per employee per month, right? So
yeah.
25 times 12 months is $300 per employee per month, and you have a 1,000-man group, right? So that's $300,000 of top line revenue for that agency to go and bring in, right? They're going to have some costs back to us, right, and costs for licensing the software, et cetera. But $300,000 on 1,000 employee group is side pretty good side hustle, let's call it, right? Beyond the premiums that you're collecting for the insurance that you've placed with them, right? Beyond any ancillary product add-ons that you might be able to sell through to that person, right? There's a significant amount of revenue to be found here in this, right? But more importantly, while it's nice to have extra money coming in, it's really important to protect your core business, which is the insurance book of business that's there, right? And keeping ADP and Paychecks or any of the other folks that are getting into the insurance business away from your client, right? And stopping them from poaching your core competency, your core revenue center, which is insurance related premium and the associated commission associated with that.
Yeah, and back to that retention concept. So this prevents the client when you have payroll and out of your agency, then it prevents that client from just wanting to stab you in the back over, X dollars less for a premium unless it's just way off, which usually an agent has a way to offset that, with other carriers if they want to make the change. So and stopping the whole concept of the client doing a broker of record that would take over the insurance away from the agency and its, current carrier. If it's tied into payroll or the agency's processing payroll, again, that's like a slap in the face. Do you really want to tick off your payroll vendor?
I mean, look, ADP and Paychex have a reputation in the industry of basically giving away payroll, right? And how is it they can afford to give away payroll is because they're making their money somewhere else, right? They're making their money off the insurance products or the upsell into retirement plan administration or the upsell into this or the upsell into that. So somebody with ADP's size and scope, right? A $20 billion a year company, right? They use payroll as somewhat of a loss leader to kind of get over the wall to get in with a client, right? And their model has been once they get over the wall into payroll, then they bring in all these other business units to go cross sell, upsell with the idea of walking that client into the full blown PEO or somewhere along that path, right? Again, they can afford to go give away payroll because they're not doing it for free. Like I said, they're not a not for profit. They're a publicly traded company. They have shareholders to be accountable to, right? So if they're doing payroll, right, and doing it for a song, they got to be making money somewhere else. So I would advise agents here listening to the podcast here is if you want to broach a conversation with one of your clients around the payroll thing, don't just ask them what they pay for payroll because again, what's disclosed on that invoice isn't the true cost of payroll to them. What you really need to look at is that client service agreement that you made reference to before, because in that client service agreement is where all those ding fees are called out. And the client sees an invoice month by month by month, probably very rarely looks at it in aggregate over the run of the time they've been with that thing to say, hey, we paid $9,000 in ding fees for adding new employees to our group, right? That doesn't show up on a monthly invoice as a clearly defined thing. It's a one-off. Hey, we made one hire this month. Oh, there's a $50 fee, rounding error for us, right? But if you look at that in aggregate over the course of their time together, those fees could be pretty extensive, right? It could be in the thousands of dollars, right? So looking at that client service agreement with one of your customers, right, or clients on the insurance side, and thoroughly understanding kind of all the revenue potential that exists in this business is the best way for these agents that you have on this podcast to truly understand the amount of money that comes and goes out of this business on the payroll side of things and what they could potentially catch some piece of, either a small piece of on a referral relationship or a bigger piece of if they want to go ahead
Yeah,
with their
I love it.
insurance.
And then the cool thing too about this model of the agency doing payroll in-house is that they don't have to actually doing the objection I came up with the timing of the conversion. He's like, well, we have a January 1 effective date on the insurance. We got to get everything switched over, in 5 days or whatever for payroll. And like that just stresses the customer out. They could go ahead and have the January 1st effective date on the insurance and start payroll on for after the first quarter or whenever. But
They
I'm
could
just
do it
saying it
pretty
doesn't
much
have to
anytime in
all
it.
come
Yeah.
at once. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
all come on the same date.
It doesn't
No.
unless you're taking away from a PEO, right? Because the PEO is not going to continue to do payroll for them if they're not getting
Right.
the
Good
the
point.
benefits stuff, right? But if it's a true ASO or payroll only type offering, right, with an ADP or Paychex or one of those guys, right, you could for sure cancel your BOR, right? Cancel out of the insurance stuff that you get, and they'll continue to process payroll only for you pretty much indefinitely, right? They're happy to harvest your money, right? They might reprice you because again, they're not going to make any premium, right? Not going to make any revenue off of no longer having your benefits booked there, right? They may reprice that client, which is even more incentive for that client to get the hell out of Dodge, right? And go find a new provider. But to your point, you could cut over insurance separate from payroll. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And that's the big issue of an agent not wanting to broach it because it just causes the client another decision to have to make, another stress point to have to switch payroll systems. So here they got total control now of the timing of it and can hit them up later to come onto the payroll system. And it might give the client sort of peace of mind to say that if they're with another payroll company or maybe they're doing it in-house to know that the agent has this bandwidth that to say that you do payroll in your agency and it's not referred out to some other vendor is like very unique, a selling point. It makes you sound really huge, to be honest.
It's a competitive advantage for that broker agent out there, right? Because I'm sure that that customer has been approached by other brokers or agents wanting to get that insurance book of business, right? And that owner operator of that business said, "Great, if you take my insurance, who's going to do the payroll, right?" And that broker agent has probably said, "Oh, well, we can shop you to Paychex or ADP or whatever." And that small business owner knows either from prior experience having been with one of those providers before or from word of mouth that being a small fish in a big pond like that with a national provider means you're going to get some really terrible service and support, right? You're going to be a number in that ecosystem of an ADP or a Paychex, right? Whereas if you're an agent that has your own payroll offering in-house, right, you can go to that client and say, "Hey, great news for you. I'm going to put you into our branded payroll offering, whether we do it ourselves or isolved does it for us in the back office. It's our brand. When you log in, you're going to see a name that you're familiar with, right? Bob's Insurance Agency, as an example, right? You're going to feel comfortable when you're logging into that system that it's me, right? And when you call, you're going to call me, right? You're going to call somebody on my team as kind of tier one support, right? We'll shotgun an issue with isolved if isolved is doing the back office, or if there's something wrong with the way the technology is working, which would be a rare exception, right? But again, it ties in deeper to that personal relationship that brokers and agents have with their clients, right? And say, "Hey, I'm going to pitch you into a white glove payroll experience that's going to augment or be the same as the experience that you're going to have with me as an insurance customer as well."
Yeah, and on that note, then, like we said, for ongoing service issues, questions, they could be directed to their payroll contact at iSolve to handle that on a day-to-day basis. It's only if it needs to have escalation do we need to come back to the agency, correct?
Typically in the SBO model, Eric, the agent, we'll call the network partner in our world, likes to take tier one support because they want to be involved, right? They don't want to just tell their client, go call somebody else. Typically, they'll be tier one and want to actually be involved. It's totally optional for them, right? You can have
Okay.
your clients call us directly, and we'll know that they're a client of yours, and we'll treat them accordingly, right? But sometimes those broker agents, or in our case, these payroll service bureaus and ASOs, they want to be tier one support. They want to get the first stab at those issues because sometimes they can knock them down as being a user error, right? Or a training error or something really easy that they can look like the hero and solve, right? It's typically the more complicated scenarios that they then have to go and bring that to us, right? And say, "Hey, the client is having this issue. We tried to triage it ourselves. We have not seen this issue before, or this is something higher level than what our aptitude or skill set is. Can you guys help us out?" Right? So it depends on that service model and what they want to do. They want it to be Olay, right? Olay hands off, pass it over to us. We can do that. But again, many of them, for the purpose of retaining that client relationship and again, staying involved in that and giving them that white glove service, sometimes that's the least the minimum that they'll do is to be kind of that triage or that middleman, so to speak, on some of those issues, right? More importantly, is when they get into our technology stack, there's a lot of ability for the client to self-service, right? Go find their own answer, whether it's an employee or the owner operator, right? There's a iSolved University that exists in our world that can kind of build out preloaded kind of instructional guides or training videos on how to use the technology that you can turn on for the client or the client administrator to use. Hell, there's even a world, and we have partners in our world where all they're doing is basically reselling our tech. They're setting up their clients to use the iSolve platform to DIY and run their own payrolls. But guess what? The partner's harvesting an administrative fee or something for just facilitating the ability of supporting that client to go DIY, do their own payrolls on their not on their technology because it's their technologies, right? It's their branded instance, right? It's their client. It's not iSolve's client, it's their client, right? They can mark that up and they can let somebody come in if they've got a client that's fairly sophisticated that has internal, right? Let's say they did their own payrolls previously. They've got an internal payroll person, an internal HR person or two, right? These are traditionally larger type clients, 2, 3, 500,000 employees, right? In that scenario, you can go and approach that prospect and say, hey, take a look at this technology that I have. I can give you the keys. I can let you drive in this platform all by yourself. And in that case, you just let them in and let them go do their own thing, right? It's their bank accounts that are set up in there, right? It's I like to say, in that case, you're in the rope making business, right? They can make a lasso or a noose out of that, right? But again, it's another way that really helps these partners have a client that could never outgrow them, right? When they're small, they can be full service to that client, right? As that client gets larger and is contemplating bringing payroll and HR back in house, cool, you don't have to leave us. We'll just change the way that we give you access into the system and we'll let you run your own payrolls in the system too. So there's not a world where a client would ever, in theory, need to leave you, right, as they grow, which is a beautiful
Yeah, no, I
model.
love it. Well, so Jamie, this has been great, man. Like, if an agent had a specific question or wanted to learn more, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, you've known me for how long now? Again, a decade plus. You know, I'm all about relationships. And again, with my background, I've been all over the place, right? I've been in financial services. I've been in the recruiting game. I've been here in the technology space, PEO payroll forever. I love talking to people about this business. More importantly, is I love the feedback that I get from people that are coming into this world from outside of the world that I've become accustomed to, the traditional payroll bureaus, PEOs, et cetera. So I love to think about ways that we can get people from outside of our kind of regular customer base to get into this business. Because again, it's a wonderful business. It's a cash warehousing business, right? It's highly transactional and highly profitable. It can be extended and expansions onto those core businesses that they operate. So if anybody has any questions at all, I'll be happy to chat with them about any of the models, a referral relationship, and get them over to the appropriate team. We call it the channels team internally within iSolve to set up a referral relationship. If they want to talk more about the two models within the network, I can run point with them on that. They can reach me at jfortier, Jfortier, at isolvedhcm.com. Or look me up on LinkedIn. I think there's only like 2 or 3 other Jamie Fortiers out there. You'll recognize my handsome face when you log into LinkedIn there. But feel free to reach out to me. I'm sure if you reached out to Eric, he'd be happy to pass you along to me as well. But happy to talk to anybody to talk more if you've been thinking about doing this. And even if you're not thinking about doing this, you probably should. And if you want to bounce some ideas off of me, again, I'm happy to offer some of my time and energy to help get some more new blood into this ecosystem. Eric, you know this from your firsthand experience having been here before. There's a lot of consolidation happening on the M&A side of this business, both in the PEO world and the payroll service and ASO world. All those big operators are gobbling up all these small mom and pop operations out there. And these clients of these small mom and pops are now becoming part of these behemoth companies, right? And the service levels are dropping off. I experienced this myself as an employee at my prior company. Our PEO that we were with got bought out by the large nationals, right? And not only did our insurance premiums not go down, they actually went up. And what we got from the benefits side of the house was actually worse. We were paying more money for worse benefits with a large national provider than we were getting from our local mom and pop PEO that was servicing us there too. So with all the consolidations happening, there's a huge cast off of these small mid-sized businesses that are looking for a new home. We'd love to help one of these broker agents on here hang up a shingle and start to harvest some of that stuff to get that customer service back into this business, right? More importantly, let's get some new people into the business, right? Some new blood, some new perspective. That's how the industry is going to grow, right? Is by getting new blood and new perspective.
So that's cool. The agency doesn't have to, add a whole new level of staff. Back up a second, go into more about iSolved and how big they are and what you guys do.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, so iSolve's been around for quite some time. I'm going to say 20 some odd years, right? iSolve started as a Cobra administration technology and service bureau, right? Way in the back and way back in time. And we've obviously evolved into being kind of a this direct to consumer payroll service bureau and compete on what we call the direct line of business against ADP, Paychex, Paylocity, Paycom, the folks where those referrals that somebody would send over to us would house, right? And then in the last 10, 12 years time, we started this network, which is this reseller ecosystem, right? And the thought process is, hey, our end game is to get our technology in the hands of employers and their employees, right? That's really our key marching order is to drive employee experience, right? To keep employees' butts in seats so that those small business owners, right, small mid-sized business owners don't have to worry about, hey, I'm in the widget business. I'm really good at making widgets, but I have all these things as an employer, all these requirements that I have to live and die by being an employer, right? And we take all those burdens off their hands, whether we do that on the direct line of business or through our network partners, right? The resellers that bring our tech with their services or our tech with our services behind them to the equation. So again, iSolve's been around for a long time. We've been focused very key on the employee, right? The employee is the lifeblood of how we focus and build our technology is keeping the employee engaged with their employer so they can be focused on the employer can focus on making widgets, right? And making sure that they have the team around them that are focused on making widgets or hitting whatever goals that they want, right? That employee management doesn't become a distraction from their core competency, which is making widgets in this particular example, right? The other thing that's a super big challenge for employers today is with the employment market, the job market being the way that it is, right? Employers are investing a lot of time, money, and efforts into their employees. They want to make sure they keep them around, at least keep the good people around, right? And have a way to measure and reward those employees that have helped them to kind of make those widgets or make that dream or make that goal happen too. So a lot of what you see in our technology is really driven to keeping employees' butts in seats, keeping the best employees engaged so they can continue to produce and yield the outcome that that business owner wants.
Well, that makes sense.
A
And
little
I
more just on iSolved as a company, right? We've got about 2,000 or so internal employees. We're headquartered out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We've got a couple offices throughout the U.S., up in Michigan, a couple out west, one in Utah as well. Again, we have a ton of remote employees, just like everybody has these days, right? But primarily U.S. based around the support, the development side of things, certainly around the network side of things, and all the ecosystem around what we do for our clients. And the network specifically, right? All the people that are responsible for kind of the relationship ownership, right? The relationship management, people like myself who are on the sales and business development side. Obviously, we are a domestic US based company. We don't do global payroll. So we're really good at doing domestic payrolls, right? We understand all the complexities of doing business in like California, as an example. We have tens of thousands of clients in California or New York, which is becoming California 2.0 from a regulatory standpoint as well. We have clients and partners in all 50 states, right? So we have good exposure to all the unique needs of particular states. Another one being like Washington State and some of the wonky rules they have around work comp in that state. We're very familiar with that. We've walked that path, right? So that's a benefit to anybody that's partnered with us either as a client on the direct side or as a partner of ours in that network reseller ecosystem as well. We've been there, done that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then, in terms of the tax liability, I know that's always a fear that, if all the payroll service bureaus currently will take on that liability for the client so that, if something's filed late or wrong, as long as the client reported everything timely, then, you guys can absolve because of your size and experience absolve the agency from that liability of any kind of late penalties or any kind of penalties or
Yeah,
issues.
if they go down that full back office side or even on the direct line for that matter, right, we're going to take that ownership and responsibility, right? We do have people that live in our ecosystem on the network side, right? That again, they want that full back office because they want that flow, right? And this is the trade-off, right? Is some people are like, I don't want any liability. You guys can take the flow, right? You guys can go take those tax deposits when you run payroll every week or every other week, and you can sit on those tax deposits. I just want to know that they get paid. They get paid for my client on the quarterly basis or whenever they hit a threshold. We have other partners in our ecosystem that want full control over the back office because they view the way they operate, particularly the ones that are PEOs on our platform, they view their business as a cash warehousing business. Hey, we're going to go and debit at every week or every 2 weeks and start to harvest insurance premiums and sit on the float of insurance premiums so we have to make a payment the next month, or hey, we're going to sit on payroll tax deposits until we got to make a quarterly filing as well. So in either of the models in the network side, right, either way, right, you could outsource the tax part to us, or you could keep the tax part for yourself if you want to sit on that float. And the float can be something fairly significant if you have a decent amount of premium or payroll dollars, which is your basis, right?
Yeah.
It's really a matter of where you want to be and where you want to go. We have partners in our ecosystem, right? Insurance brokers like this audience here that want to go stand up a full-blown payroll service bureau. And what they do is they come into that back office model first, prove out that concept, convert clients from insurance only clients to insurance plus payroll clients, right? Start to harvest more money. As they get more money, they reinvest that money back into building a back office team, right? They then fire us out from the back office and bring in their people to run the back office where they're keeping even more for themselves because they're not having to, in theory, share with us. Now, granted, they're taking on more liability, but they're hiring the people to hedge that risk, right?
PNC agents, have you run into Byberg, which is a Berkshire Hathaway company quoting workers' comp for either your prospects or clients? Well, great news. Insured Solutions, a national MGA, has an appointment that is set up to allow you to quote, bind, and service Byberg at your agency. And the coverage is in all states. It's A-rated. Startups are even accepted. There's 125,000 maximum premium. And some of the tough industries they write are construction, transportation that includes towing and parcel delivery, manufacturing, security guards that are armed and unarmed, motor mediation, and many more. So go to our website at insuredsolutions.net, click the Get Appointed link. We'll get you logins for you and your team and can set up a webinar for training if you'd like. Also, feel free to email info@insuredsolutions.net and I can handle the submission myself, or call 770-402-5343. Be glad to speak to you and give you more detail. Thanks. I got you. So you can start out with the service bureau model, have it full service, and then get your feet wet.
That's
And
kind of where it
then
originated from, right? Is we would run it, we only previously had kind of the full network partner route where you had to bring your own people to the back office. That was in place when I got here 2.5 years ago, right? We only had that one model. We realized very quickly that people weren't willing to make that investment to go and build out an entire back office and take on that risk. That's where this service bureau outsourcing model was kind of born from, was to use this as an incubator, right? As an incubator for people that were starting up and truly wanted to be payroll businesses, or people that wanted to add this to their portfolio as an additional revenue source and never really wanted to ever be a full-blown standalone payroll service bureau. They wanted to just have it as an extension to that core business, be it insurance or, like I said before, CPA, advisory, tax type work, that kind of stuff too. So it was born from a need that was out there, which was people wanted to get into this business. They didn't know what they needed in the back office, and they didn't know, up from down as far as what those risks were, right? So in this case, it's a turnkey. You just hang it all on us. We know what we're doing, right? You hang it on us until you prove out the model and you make the determination like, hey, okay, I want to get into this. I want to put 2 feet into this camp instead of 1 foot into this camp.
right. Now the cool thing is, again, kind of back to the beginning, and that is that the reason clients hate changing payroll systems is a pain in the neck. So once you get them in, the retention is really high, of course, so and then if you are their agent, it's very hard for them to leave you over a little less premium on something because they're gonna feel like maybe they're going to upset you like they would their CPA if they did something. So they're going to, there's this unspoken loyalty from the customer back to the agency because they bundled everything. Like a PEO has like a 95 plus,
Yeah.
percent retention. So that's going to now come to the agency is going to then get this new retention because the client is a bitch to change, and then they're going to not want to tick you off. And then if they're tying in as much as you can, some of the GL products are, you can use payroll versus sales in terms of that information. You're tying in the agency now can help with the audit for workers' comp because they've got all the
The
data.
agent gets direct access to that data. This is your system, right? You don't have to wait for some third party to send you the information you need to take to the carrier to show premium dollars, right? You can log right in the system and pull the report out that you need to take to the carrier on behalf of the client when you go for a renewal or a reprice, right? And to your earlier point, I like to think of this as the example I like to use is like my local provider here for cable and internet, Xfinity or Comcast as they used to be called, right? I get my cable TV, my home internet, my home phone. Believe it or not, I still have a home phone because it comes with the package, right?
Yes, yeah, I do
If I
too.
wanted to go out, I could probably go out and a la carte each of those three things and find somebody that would do them for incrementally cheaper each. But then I have three throats to choke, right? Now I have one throat to choke. When something goes wrong, I pick up the phone and I call Xfinity. I'm like, hey, my internet's out, or my TV's out, or my phone's out, right? Instead of saying, I got to call Joe, and Joe says, no, it's the other guy's problem, right? In this case, it's a single throat to choke, right? In this broker agent, because the broker agent is doing the insurance items and is responsible for facilitating the payroll stuff. So you've got more hooks into that client. To your point, makes it harder for that client to leave. And quite frankly, we found, or at least I found in my conversations with owners like yourself that have been in this space before, there is a level of loyalty there. And sometimes those clients are willing to pay more to have that single throat to choke, right? It's all about vendor consolidation, right? That's truly the model that PEOs are selling today. And now more and more ASOs or payroll service bureaus, as they're starting to expand their product portfolio out beyond payroll into the benefits arena, as an example, right? Or into retirement plans. That's how they position themselves as, hey, let us be your point person for all these things, right? Let us be the single throat to choke, and you're going to pay us to do it. And clients are willing to pay for that convenience.
No, no, I think it's great, brother. Well, I appreciate your time, man, and we'll be talking to you again soon, of course.
Appreciate it, Eric.
Thanks,
Thanks so
man.
much, man. Appreciate the opportunity. Bye all.
Thanks again for tuning in to Insurance Shop Talk. If you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest trends, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, I'm Eric Stein, and this has been Insurance Shop Talk.